Good morning, everyone. Monseigneur, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the press conference on the Monaco explorations. I am Enric Sala, explorer in residence at National Geographic Society. And this morning we're going to hear about a project that combines the classic and the new, the old tradition of exploration with space-age technologies, and also storytelling to learn about the ocean, but also to inspire people to act. There are moments in time that are key for the future of humanity, and we believe that the Sustainable Development Goals, together with the Paris Climate Agreement, is one of these moments. It's the first time that the global community has got together to make a plan for the future of the planet and for the ocean, and this is the first time that the UN has organized a fully dedicated ocean conference. The deadline for delivering the Sustainable Development Goals is 2030, but there are many milestones along the way that will help us determine whether we can craft a better path for the future. So this morning we'll hear from His Serene Highness, Prince Albert II of Monaco, Professor Margaret Leinen of Scripps Institution of Oceanography in California, and Professor Françoise Gail of France's National Research Council. Before we start, we'd like to show a short video. There you go. There you go.
3 years travelling on the seas and oceans of the globe, starting in August 2017. Monaco Explorations embark on an original project and a multidisciplinary scientific programme. Dozens of researchers will take turns working on issues such as protecting biodiversity, participating in the preservation of endangered species, studying the impact of interaction between mankind and oceans, discovering deep-sea megafauna, characterizing and extending protected marine areas, mapping underwater mounts, those lesser-known biodiversity hotspots that are nonetheless in danger. Despite the fact that oceans cover more than 70% of the surface of the planet, we know less about them than the moon. Yet they represent a core issue for biodiversity, for the climate, and therefore for humanity. Hence Monaco's decision to get involved in a new way through ship owner François Fiat, who is making available a multi-purpose research platform, the clean ship Yersin, the very first of its kind to be able to sail for 10 days without producing any waste. The boat is equipped according to recommendations provided by the Scientific Orientation Committee, which drafted a demanding programme for the next 3 years. It makes use of the latest innovative technologies that combine environmental DNA, samples, and mobile machines designed for great depths, with electronic sensors to collect, amongst other things, real-time data on the acidification of the oceans. More than a century later, Monaco is continuing the great maritime explorations undertaken by Prince Albert I, who is considered the father of modern oceanography, with teams being deployed on some of the same sites. These projects, led by Prince Albert II, are also meant to provide some explanation and improve understanding, to be a time for communication between man and the ocean that will suggest new opportunities for sustainable management. On the 27th of July, the Yersin will leave Monaco, its home port, to head for Micronesia off the African shores, near Madeira and Cape Verde, to begin its long scientific adventure in August.
Monseigneur, could you please explain what brought you to launch the Monaco explorations?
Well, thank you very much, Henrik. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, dear friends. Thank you for being here this morning and for attending this presentation on a project which is particularly close to my heart, this project, the explorations of Monaco. You've already just seen the core of the program and the course that will be charted over the next 3 years and the approach guiding these explorations. I will not make any additional comments on this, but I'd like to address the few moments of the founding principles which motivated me and the team around me to undertake this project and to come today to present it to you. The preservation of our environment has become, as you know, a priority of our time. What was only a few years ago, for most people, not for us at this table, or I think most of us in this room, not a secondary consideration, but for some people, of course it was, and nowadays appears to be a universal imperative shared by most governments of the world. That is shown in the Sustainable Development Goals, which bring us all to New York here this week, and especially this special conference on SDG 14, which, of course, as you all know, deals with the oceans and the need to better understand them and better protect them. With my government, I've personally contributed to the developing of this extremely important and initiative and innovative, SDG. It is at the heart of a number of my priorities and a part of a long tradition of the Principality of Monaco. Indeed, for almost a century, the Principality has been committed to the oceans, to understanding them, and to try to protect them. Today, that commitment is renewed via the explorations of Monaco. Our commitment can be summarized in 3 points. First, the necessity of changing the way we look at the ocean. For centuries, if not millennia, humanity has seen the ocean as an omnipotent expanse from which the fragile little man had to protect himself. Nowadays, it's the opposite. Man is virtually omnipotent, and the ocean is fragile. The ocean has to be protected. It is a human power that needs to be better controlled. This situation implies a new model of development, which must be sustainable and respectful of our environment, one which I'm endeavoring, along with many others, to promote through the commitment and responsible policies of my government and my involvement in international fora and negotiations, but particularly here at the UN. Second point is the necessity to know the oceans better. For if today the oceans are victim of our civilization's many excesses, if they are undergoing, and we are undergoing, of course, global warming, acidification, pollution of various types, overfishing, and the destruction of different ecosystems, more than anything else, they are suffering from our ignorance and our indifference. That is why the Principality of Monaco, whose entire horizon faces the sea, has always chosen to protect the oceans with the collaboration of scientists. This was particularly so with my great-great-grandfather, Prince Albert I, who was known as the Scholar Prince. He created the Oceanographic Institute of Paris and the Oceanographic Museum in Monaco. Above all, he was one of the founders of modern oceanography, an impassioned explorer, a rigorous scientist, a responsible head of state. He established abiding connections between the Principality and the scientific community to the service of the seas. More than ever, I wish to promote these links, to enrich them, to strengthen them, to achieve my goal, our goal, aiming to reconcile mankind and the sea. Finally, the third point which guides our efforts is to encourage maximum participation, political decision makers, economic stakeholders, NGOs, civil society, and public opinion. In this respect, the first campaign of explorations will be an opportunity to take a look at Macaronesia, not Micronesia, Macaronesia, off the coast of Africa. The Yersin, our scientific exploration vessel, will make its Atlantic Ocean debut next August off the coast of Africa, around the Portuguese archipelago of Madeira for its maiden research mission. We'll be looking at the protection of different species, marine biology, environmental DNA, the extension of an MPA, of a marine protected area, in liaison with the Portuguese authorities. I think I'll be able to meet with the Portuguese President, His Excellency Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, beginning of September to discuss these particular issues. These three requirements, changing our relationship to the sea, deepening our understanding, and maximizing our involvement, are at the heart of the project which brings us here this morning. The explorations of Monaco are indeed at the hub of these three issues. By the innovative nature of the vessel, the Ursin, whose unique characteristics you have seen, but will be presented to you more in detail later, I think. By the program of the thoroughness of the missions, which Mrs. Margaret Leinen and Mrs. Françoise Gail will present to you shortly. And finally, by the attractiveness of the project, which will host renowned head scientists and will generate meetings where it anchors in constant contact with the public via an ambitious communication program. It is for these reasons that I wanted to be personally involved in this unique project by mobilizing my government and bringing together leading authorities and personalities and the driving forces of the Principality, in particular my foundation, the Oceanographic Museum, and the CSM, the Monaco Science Center. All answered our call and are now moving forward together, moved by this immense ambition of making peace between mankind and the sea. I hope we will get you on board as we face a major challenge, one of the great adventures, I think, of at least this part of our century, one of the most important and one of the most urgent. Thank you very much. Pass it back to Rick.
Thank you, Monsignor. You have mentioned scientific research. I'd like to ask you, Professor Leinen, why is scientific research such an important component of the explorations of Monaco?
The scientific research that is planned for these cruises is extremely important because it allows us to look at all of the relationships between the organisms, the biodiversity, the chemistry, and the physics of the ocean, to really be able to understand what is controlling what we see. Earlier this week, Francois and I were at a session where we were talking about exploration, and that exploration now is not just about finding things and going to places that haven't been seen before, but also understanding relationships. And one of the key elements of this opportunity is the technological capability of the ship. There are 6 different laboratories on the ship so that scientists of all kinds with all specialties can go along on the cruise. So people can look at the chemistry that leads to acidification. They can look at all of the different kinds of organisms. They can look at the currents and the way they interact. So it's a very interdisciplinary approach. I think the second thing that is really important here is all of the places that are going to be visited. This is a set of cruises that will go to some of the places that are very difficult for oceanographers to visit routinely: the South Pacific, the Central and Southern Indian Ocean. Even the transects between the islands that are going to be visited are important because they provide opportunities for us to look at what's happening in parts of the ocean that we just don't get to. And the third is the size. This is a 250-foot vessel. It's an extremely capable vessel, as capable as many government oceanographic vessels. And it has the unique capability of being entirely clean, not being able, or not shedding any pollutants from the ship itself. So that means that when we study the water, it will be unpolluted by petroleum or oil or anything from the ship itself. And that's, again, an extraordinary opportunity. Even 10 years ago, it was very difficult to find platforms that were clean to be able to study trace elements, small amounts of pesticide or herbicide that are in the water. So these three things, the path that the ship will take, its capability, its technical capability, and the size to be able to accommodate really large scientific teams are all key to being able to be successful in understanding not only what's there, but what the relationships are that are so important.
Thank you, Margaret. So we have a ship with great assets, and the ship is going to be visiting very remote locations that are difficult to get to. So, Professor Gail, in your opinion, what are the topics that the Monaco explorations should focus on?
Anybody agrees about the urgency of protecting the planet, especially the blue part of it, the ocean and its inhabitant. But to well protect, we need a deep knowledge of this environment which is lacking today. The ocean is the lastest continent which has to be discovered. And the Monaco exploration are the opportunity to fill this gap of this unawareness. It is said that we have identified about 10% of the marine biodiversity today, and we have to explore the ocean for knowing what are the species living there, with what type of behavior, facing which stressors, climate change, plastic pollutions, but also noise stressors. The originality of this Monaco research program is to mix the visible and the unseen. The visible are these animals larger than 1 meter, when the non-visible is their molecular footprint, the environmental DNA. And today we are able to reconstruct the history of a site and to determine who is there, but also who was there, when, and with whom. One assumption is that small islands remote from human activities are the last refuge of this medium-sized fauna. This Monaco exploration will allow us to test this assumption on small islands, as well on seamounts, which are hard area for fishing. And such research program will help to find means for not only conserve more, but keep better.
Thank you very much, François. So I'd like to add that a major goal of the Monaco explorations is to contribute to the global goal of 10% of the ocean protected by 2020, which appropriately is also the date for the end of the expedition. But what do we mean by protecting, and why 10%? And I don't need to remind the audience about all the bad things that we are doing to the ocean. But I'd like to remind you that today, only 3.5% of the ocean is under some type of protection. And less than 2% is in fully protected areas, no-take marine reserves that prohibit extraction of resources. And there are many kinds of marine protected areas, from no-take areas to areas that allow most types of fishing. But I like to focus on these no-take areas, which have been shown to be the most effective type of protection in the ocean. We have a new study coming out that shows that no-take areas have almost 7 times more fish than the unprotected areas nearby. They also help to replenish the fisheries around their boundaries, so they act as a savings account that helps the fishermen. And in some places, the incomes of fishermen have doubled in only 3 years thanks to these reserves. Also, when the fish come back, the divers come in, helping to develop ecotourism businesses that provide more jobs and bring more revenue than fishing. And also, healthy ecosystems have been shown to be more resilient to the effects of climate change. And these are the facts from hundreds of scientific and economic studies from around the world. This is why it's so important that we need good science, and science for helping to create and manage these protected areas includes an understanding of what was there before, that baseline that Francois was talking about, but also what happens over time after these places are protected relative to the rest of the ocean. And that includes what happens underwater, but also what happens in the local economies. So it's this multidisciplinary approach is very, very important. And the explorations from Monaco are going to help to set some of these ecological baselines for some of the places that are the best baseline we have now for what the ocean used to be like. But equally important is also the communication of these facts, to inspire leaders and citizens alike to understand that there are solutions that we can apply today with quick and long-lasting benefits. So another key component of the explorations of Monaco is going to be to produce compelling media to inspire people to fall in love with these places that the Yersin will visit, but also to inspire them to preserve them. So the science and the economics are very clear. Marine reserves work for nature and for people, and we need many more of them. The 10% target of the United Nations by 2020 is not the goal, it's just a milestone. There is scientific agreement that we should protect at least 30% of the ocean by 2030. So there is a lot of hard work to do, but we are all very excited to partner with Monseigneur, your foundation, and the Yersin to be part of these explorations of Monaco that will will contribute to getting more of the ocean under protection. So having said that, Monseigneur, may I ask you to conclude, please?
Thank you very much, Enric. To conclude very briefly this presentation, I'd like to thank all those who've made this project possible. The government and the National Council of Monaco, first of all, who understood early on the interest and the many implications for the Principality of Monaco. The various partners, in particular the Scientific Center of Monaco, the Oceanographic Institute, the Oceanographic Museum, my foundation, of course, and the Yacht Club of Monaco. And there are many other entities that I could mention, but it would take too long, and a lot of scientific and environmental partners who've given this project its coherence. The owner of the Yersin, Francois Fiat, and his family, thanks to whom we've been able to charter this magnificent ship. And finally, the teams of the explorations of Monaco, and especially the captain of the Yersin, Jean Dumaret, and his crew, whose talents I think will be invaluable during these next 3 years. With everyone's combined efforts, we have succeeded in carrying out this great project, which will become a reality in just a few weeks. The Yersin is now in its final preparations, the fitting out of different equipments, the labs that we mentioned, in the manner that was recommended, of course, by the scientific committee, and the different equipments needed for exploration. So it will soon be all set to receive the scores of different scientists under optimum conditions, who will find, I think, a unique platform proportionate to the importance of their work. You've heard in the video that the Yersin will leave the harbor of Monaco on the 27th of July of this year on a 3-year voyage. We will see it cross many of the world's oceans and, above all, contribute, I think we all hope, to bring about a new understanding, a new vision of our ocean, and to discover better ways to keep it healthy for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monseigneur. I think we have time for a few questions. Please identify yourself and your organization, please.
Thanks very much. Serene Highness, Professors Leinen and Gale, on behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, a warm welcome to the United Nations, and thank you for this briefing. My name is Sherman Bryce-Pease, a correspondent for South African Broadcasting, and that is complete coincidence, Serene Highness. No, we planned it especially for you. A question perhaps for each of you. Professor Leinen, could you talk about how the scientists for the vessel will be procured? Where will they come from, and how will that process work? And perhaps for you, Professor Gale, could you talk about how the ship will be powered? I imagine you won't be using sails, so perhaps just explain, in the absence of fuel and that sort of stuff. And Serene Highness, recently President Donald Trump, I mean, this is a political question, and I imagine you're the best place to answer this one, President Trump, of course, withdrawing the United States from the Paris Agreement. I wonder if you could weigh in on that decision. Thank you.
Actually, Francois and I may want to switch answers. We could both talk a little bit about the developing the science program, but do you want to start with that?
Well, we have a scientific committee which is looking at, what are the updates we will have related to the question that we were discussing about the biodiversity, large marine animals and so on. And we organize the things in order to have on the ship the convenient equipment, which will be really defined in correspondence with the scientists are asking for. And it's very unusual that, because usually you have a ship, and with the ship, you adapt your research to what the ship has as a potential. But this time, it's quite different. You have some research question, scientific question, and you adapt the ship to the question that you want to solve. And this is very unique, I think.
And a little bit about the ship. It's not so much that the ship has a different sort of propulsion or power system. It's that there have been procedures and technology put in place so that everything that would normally be waste from the propulsion, both stack gas and grease, oil, etc., is captured and does not go overboard or does not go into the atmosphere. Even the grease and oil from cooking and from what we consume on the ship. I'm even told that the washing machines, the effluent from the washing machines doesn't go directly into the ocean because, of course, half of us, our clothes are half plastic, and the fibers from this become part of the plastic microfiber debris that we find in the ocean. So every effort has been made to collect that. So it's not that the propulsion is so different, it's that all of the systems for keeping the ship clean are so different.
Well, I was able to express myself on the United States withdrawal from the Paris Agreement, which I think in everybody's mind is catastrophic. But I think this only has made everybody more aware of the importance of the issue, and has, I think, made us even more determined to reach the goals that all our countries have put forward to meet the targets that were demanded by the Paris Agreement. And so I think, I think there was a wonderful reaction right here in the U.S. as well, from the corporate world, from the mayors of different cities, from the governors of different states. So I think there'll be a tremendous movement to keep on going and to keep the fight against climate change alive around the world and in this country. And I think we're still a few years away from the Paris Agreement is made up in such a way that that no country can leave right then and now. It takes at least 3 years and 3.5 years now. So there might be there might still be hope. think everybody is crossing their fingers for that, there might be a reversal of that decision.
Thank you. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. A question on where the ship is going. Is there any particular area of the ocean that you're most excited for it to reach and research? And just a follow-up, if President Trump was right here, right now, what would you try and say to him to convince him otherwise?
Thanks a lot. I'm getting a lot of help. I would try to tell him very simply to listen a little more carefully to scientists and to the scientific evidence that has been out there for quite a while now, and to just look at the tremendous implications that go along with having the U.S. Withdraw from the Paris Agreement, and it is disheartening. But as I said, we have to keep on fighting, and our determination is there, and he has. I think he should listen to more people who have been dealing with these issues for quite some time now, and who I think have a pretty good idea of what it means and what it implies for the future. And it's because we're not, as I've said many times before, we're not doing this, and we all know this, we're not doing this just for ourselves, not for now, but for future generations. And I think that should resonate in most people's minds and hearts. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Which area of the ocean?
Okay.
Please.
For me, the areas that I'm most excited about the ship going to are the South Pacific, which is one of the least studied of the oceans, and the Central Indian Ocean, same thing. Those are areas of the ocean that we don't get to very often, and that have not been studied in detail. And every time that we go to an area like that, we find that there are aspects of it that we had no idea were there. For example, a cruise about 6 or 7 years ago in the South Pacific found that it was so far away from land, there was so little material coming in, that there was no accumulation of sediment, of mud on the bottom of a large portion of the South Pacific Ocean. No other ocean, no other region is like that. So imagine being able to go with many scientists looking at many different aspects to a place that has only been visited a few times by oceanographers. So for me, those are the most exciting pieces of this plan.
If I may add to your question, there is a place that the boat is going to be visiting extraordinary places, but there is one that I'm particularly excited about is the Southern Line Islands. It belongs to the Republic of Kiribati. It's in the South Pacific, north of French Polynesia, and we conducted an expedition in 2009, and we found the most pristine coral reefs in the Pacific, where the predators outweigh their prey, and very healthy coral reefs. And we haven't been back since the place was protected by President Tong of Kiribati in 2014. So we don't know how this place has dealt with the extreme warming event that went across the Pacific last year that killed so many corals in the Great Barrier Reef. So this place, so it's basically, we're going back to a place that was pristine a few years ago, and this place is going to be a very important test of the role that protection can play in the resilience of the ocean, and are coral reefs that are protected going to be able to cope better with the effects of climate change? So this is, and personally for me, is one of the most exciting parts of the exploration. Monsignor, please.
Yeah, I just want to add to that it's not only listening to Enric to describe different pristine places, and I'm very honored also to be on that Pristine Seas honorary board, but and to listen to him to describe what the Line Islands were all about, and also the when I visited the Tubataha Reef in the Philippines with a small group of us, the people from Monaco and the museum last year. Those were really and to see what beautiful reefs those were as well. Those, I think, were the two determining factors that led us to try to put this project together. Of course, it was then the availability of the vessel itself, but the desire to go to these very remote but very pristine places and to better understand them and better comprehend the mechanisms that are in place there, we then built and tracked the suggested course, and then of course the scientific interest in other places as well. But I think those, for me, that was also the determining factor to go forward with this project.
Thank you, Monsignor. Please.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Your Serene Highness, professors. My name is Ahmed Fati, American Television News. Let's get closer to the home front, to the waterfront. Monaco is a prime tourist destination. Summertime is a heavy traffic in the Mediterranean, one of the most polluted surface of water in the world. What is Monaco's policies and practices towards conducting a clean marine tourism during the high season, and how is it contributing to the overall protection of the Mediterranean, or what's left of the Mediterranean? Thank you.
Yes, the Mediterranean is a sea, well, as all seas and oceans on our planet, in danger and suffering, but there have been a certain number of initiatives in the last few decades that have been put in place. One, of course, was initiated by the Principality and by my father also, the Ramoj project for the better surveillance and monitoring of coastal pollution between France, Italy, and the Principality of Monaco. So an area that goes from Saint-Raphaël in France to Genoa, passing through Monaco. And so that was kind of a pilot project in its time, and has expanded to incorporate also not only coastal areas, but to coordinate a more rapid response to oil and gas accidents, and the pollution that would result from these accidents in that area of the Mediterranean. And so, that's the Ramoj plan, and we conduct different exercises with the French and Italian navies, and what little means we also have in Monaco that can contribute to have a coordinated and efficient response in case of those types of accidents. Now, if you look at, we monitor, of course, in Monaco the quality of the water on a regular basis. We have, as you know, we also have a very small but I think very resilient and a reserve, a marine protected area, if you want, but a marine reserve, as we call it, just off the beaches of Monaco, which is a not only a no fishing zone, but you cannot navigate in this corridor, or in this reserve, and it was established over 40 years ago, and it's still I think in very good shape. Henrik has been there too, and I've done a few dives there myself, and to see the different species that were very scarce a few years ago, and to see them come back, and to see also the Posidonia fields that have reconquered their territory, makes it, I think, a healthy as possible, an ecosystem in an urban setting. Now there are different other parts of Monaco where the water quality seems to be very good, because we have a small company that has established an oyster farm, and that is on the eastern side of on the western side of Monaco, and it's been in operation for 5 or 6 years now, or even more, and they're expanding their farm in limited capacity, of course, because we have limited space, but they would not be allowed to pursue this oyster farm if the water quality was not impeccable. And so it's not totally right to say that it's a very polluted area. We have a Ligurian current that comes along the coast, and comes from Italy, that has in the past, and still does on some occasion, there is some pollution that does go by there, but in a limited quantity, and we have enough equipment to respond to those situations as well. So I think, all in all, we have as good a system as possible for a small city-state like us. But we work very closely, of course, with the French and Italian authorities to make sure there's that is controlled also on the Italian coast and on the French side as well.
Thank you, Monsignor. And unfortunately, we don't have time for more questions. We have to conclude the press conference. But I think your statement ends the press conference with a positive note, the fact that there are solutions that are already implemented even in urban environments. So thank you, Monsignor. Thank you, Françoise and Margaret. Thank you, everyone, for joining.